time of this recording, we are about a month out from IRONMAN Chattanooga, and I think you guys should be in the know about the bike course. So this video, we're going to go over IRONMAN Chattanooga 2022 bike course, all the tips and goodies that are out there on the internet. I'm Ryan, Triathlon.com, and let me continue on, close out some windows here, and we'll do the video. So I've got comments for doing this live here in Facebook, so if you got any questions or anything like that as I'm going along, put them in the comments. I'll see them live and try to get to them as we go through. If not, I'm just going to power on through. We're going to talk about the bike course. IRONMAN Chattanooga, I've done the full 3 times. I've done the half once, so fairly familiar with all the roads out there. Tip seal, after they've paved it in 2014, and then after it's kind of gone to a little bit dilapidated in 18 and 19, and then they've repaved some sections and stuff, so it should be better nowadays. So we're going to talk about all that is IRONMAN Chattanooga bike course. Again, got comments, put them in there, I'll see them live, and we'll keep going through. We're going to jump right into it. So if you go to the website, IRONMAN Chattanooga, September 25th, 2022. Time of this recording, we're about a month out, so make sure that you're ready. Hopefully you've been training for hills on that bike course, because it is 2 loops. But what you got is you start here in transition, and you go out of town, and you do this loop twice, and then you cycle back to town. So easy enough, right? 114 miles. Actually, 116. I take that back, 4 extra miles. So make sure you're ready for that. It is not your typical 112-mile bike course. You got 4 bonus miles in there to enjoy a little bit more of what Tennessee and Georgia and every place has to offer out there. So what's also nice is IRONMAN's doing these little ride-along videos, so I'll go ahead and play that here. Turn down the sound. Isn't exactly the most exciting sound out there, but as you can see, when you're going through, you start off in transition, you cycle south of Chattanooga, you're out in the countryside. It's very nice, very scenic. Like I said, the sections have been repaved over time, so it's getting a little bit better. They replaced some bridges. Do be aware there's some sections that are a little rough, a little bit tore up, some crack seal in some areas and stuff. And I got flies flying around in here. And then you cycle on, but do note, you go through special needs. You go by it twice, but once you pick it up, you cannot get it again. So if you go on your first loop, you get it, you're done, can't get it again. You get it in your second loop. You're going to be pretty close to the end point of the race, so just be aware of that you've got to do that timing. So they tried to time it till it's about 56 miles, and if you catch on the first loop, you can't catch on the second loop, but then you've gone that far without it. So if you need it, just be aware of that. So we'll minimize that, and you download a PDF, and here you go. I like to download all the PDFs and have it. It's also in the athlete guide when that comes out. But basically it's a nice little map of the course, and if you want to go drive it or anything like that, got turn-by-turn directions. You go out there and drive if you want. Like I said, it might be good to drive it just to see where the sections are that are a little bit rougher than others. Once you get out of town, it's kind of chip seal for the most part. Riding out's not a problem. Riding back, you can have a little bit of a headwind, so just be aware of that. But once you get out here and you take this first little, well, I'm trying to think where that little turn is, where the loop-de-loop is. There's a little section where you kind of turn on the major road here, and then you're kind of in the countryside. It's kind of nice, especially if it does get hot, if it's sunny. It's usually lined with trees on both sides, so in the morning and kind of in the late afternoon, you get a little bit of shade or something like that. So just be aware of that there might be opportunities to get some shade, but once you're here on the back half going back north, you're pretty much, the shade is kind of gone, and you're hit with full sunlight, so just be ready for that. Like I said, special needs over here is about 56 mile stop. Personally, I stop at the special needs and get what I need, and then cycle on. And then turn-by-turn directions and the elevation profile, which is important, because note, when you go through that little section twice, you got a little bit of an uphill. It's an overall uphill. There's one little climb here, kind of when you take the turn over here. There's one little climb. It's nothing too crazy or too wild or anything like that. You're about mile 30 something, so right before you hit this little sharp turn. It is kind of on the downhill on this turn, so you got to be careful when you hit that turn and you're coming back up and going north. But just be aware, there's a little bit of a climb, but for the most part, it's kind of rolling hills. But when you're coming out, it's going to be a gradual uphill, so you're going to have a little bit tougher time. And then when you come on that downhill, it's a little bit of a downhill when you come through town, a little bit of a climb, and a nice downhill before you hit this little turn. and you come back and you do it all over again. But once you hit that little turn for the last time, then you're riding to town, and it's kind of downhill from there. So this course, let's see if we can minimize this and get the whole screen for you. It's a challenging course, but it could be a quick course, especially here in Kansas City doing our training. The profiles around here and the terrain is very similar to what Chattanooga and Tennessee in this area has to offer. Rolling hills, nothing like super steep monster climbs. You're not looking at Barton Hill on a bike ride necessarily. There's one, like I said, one hill about the 30-mile marker. It's a little bit of a climb. You might have to get out of your seat a little bit, and it might be a little bit of a grind. But overall, it's not too crazy. But the key factor is going to be, remember, don't spend all your energy in that first 30 miles or so, because it is uphill. So don't go out there and try to kill that first 30 miles, because that's where you're going to need the most energy and be the most conservative and efficient, because you'll need it on that back half, because you'll get it again. And then when you're coming past, when you hit that, when you crest this hill for the last time, you start riding north again, and go back into town. You do have that one little climb before you make your turn back into town here in this little section. But be conservative when you come out of transition. Don't just go hammer it to try to get over here, because I mean, you're going uphill for the entire time until you get to that first climb. It's going to be really, you're going to be fired up coming out of transition. You have high energy. You're going to be the most motivated probably at that point in time. So once you hit that point, if you spent a lot of energy to try, like, oh, I'm going to get, a good bike split, I'm going to get good average times and stuff like that. If you're out there to set your PR pace on that section of the race, you'll end up burning a lot of energy, and the rest of the race will be a death march and won't be very fun, especially when you have to go through this for a second time for the second loop. Then you finally get a respite once you crest this hill for the second time, and you come through special needs, and you do a little bit of a climb, and you come to that downhill before you hit the turn and you go back into town. Like I said, if you might get, one year I got a little bit of a headwind going back into town. This is a nice little stretch. If you got a nice little tailwind, it's nice to just be in arrow position, put your head down. So hopefully at that point in time, you're not totally just, I'm toast. You're at a mile 105. Hopefully you're not like, oh, I'm totally toast. I can't be an arrow anymore. I'm going to have to be in the drops. If you have not done your diligence in your long rides to get used to being in arrow position for extended periods of time, this is a section you're going to need it most, because it's straight. It's a little bit downhill for the most part. There's really not that many climbs. There's a few little sections in here when you're going through the neighborhoods. But this is the time to be the most economical, the most efficient, try to regain the most energy and get ready for hitting transition and hitting the run course, because you're going to want as much energy as you want, or as you can get for that run course, because it's no joke. I want to do a video about the run course later and all the hills that await for you out there in the run. But this is important. This is going to be key. So pay attention to the weather. If it's going to be hot, you definitely, usually for the first, you hit that first 30 miles, the temperature's not going to be that crazy. It might be a little bit humid. So that actually kind of be nice in the bike to get a little bit of a humid breeze as you're riding along. But just be aware, once you crest this, you start heading north, that sun is going to come out, and it's going to start getting warmer and warmer and warmer. So definitely aid stations, consider using the water bottle, spraying a little bit on your back or something like that to keep cool. Hydration plan, nutrition plan. So when you're hitting this first 30 miles and you're out there, feeling good and everything, make sure you're eating, make sure you're drinking to your plan, especially if it's going to get hot, and especially on this back course. You're doing these loops and you're just trying to get over these hills, and you're taking one hill at a time. If you're not eating, if you're not doing your hydration, when you get back into town, it can be mildly deceptive, because the humidity's up a little bit, so you're feeling a little bit of a cooling effect for the most part until that sun breaks out. And if it breaks out, about noon, 1 o'clock, and if it's going to be a 100-degree heat index, it really starts rationing up really quick. So when you get to transition, you get off that bike, suddenly it starts to hit you, and if you have not played your biking game well, you're going to be out there and you're going to suffer for it a little bit. So definitely, like I said, I mean, that the elevation profile, see if we can get on there on the screen for you. Unfortunately, I've been talking about it. You can't really see all that well. So the 4,800 feet, while it is over a full Ironman distance, it's not incredibly insurmountable. It definitely will take a toll on you. So I keep iterating. You need to be conservative on the bike course. Make sure you hydrate and get your nutrition, because if it's hot out there, you're really going to need that for the run course. The bike course is definitely not exactly the best scenario to go out there and just try to kill it and set a PR and set your record. It can be a quicker bike course, especially if you're used to the terrain like that, rolling hills. If you crest it with some momentum and you come down on the backside and you got that momentum, that's an opportunity to take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a rest, so you don't have to always be cramming on the pedals to try to keep going at a certain speed, like a Ironman Florida or a flatter course. But you don't want to hammer those hills, because you end up paying for it after 116 miles of doing that. Um, Trust me, like I said, I've done this course 3 times, and I've played it several different ways. And if you play it, I'm going to mash the gears, I'm going to try to take every hill and mount the charge up every hill. By the end of that bike ride, your legs are going to be pretty zapped, and it's going to be pretty tough going for that run course, especially if it's hot. So definitely, like I said, the bike course, you may not necessarily feel the heat right away. Towards the end, you probably will a little bit. It's kind of nice because there are sections where there's trees, there's shade, sometimes there's a breeze. So really, even in 2019, when the heat index was about 100, on the bike course, I really didn't get overheated necessarily. I was being diligent about spraying myself down with water. I have a visor on my helmet, so it's tinted, so the glare of the sun wasn't a problem. I have four bottle cages on my bike, 2 on the frame, 2 on the back seat. So I just kept those going, kept every 15 minutes I was sipping water, sipping sports drink. Every 45, 30 minutes I was getting a snack, eating something like that. I brought my own to begin with, and then I switched to what was on course after a while, after I ran out of my food. And I was just playing. So there's Morton gels, there's Gatorade Endurance on the course. We'll probably have some bars of some sort. They'll probably have like fig bars, bananas. All the bottles, the water and the Gatorade bottles will fit on your bike. So I've done tons of videos on bike aid stations to get ready for that. So with this course, like I said, it's going to be important when you come out here to not just totally attack these hills, because it is a slow, gradual climb. So over time, you may be feeling great the first 20 miles, but if you're out there and you're going a little bit out of the pocket for your heart rate, for your power zones or something like that, you're going to end up paying for it later when you get into the second loop of that bike course and you got to crest that hill one more time, and you got to go through town, and you go past the special needs station again, and there's a nice long climb before you get to a nice little downhill, and then a quasi downhill back into town. So don't be that athlete when you're rolling back into town. There's a death march and you're just kind of pedaling along and soft pedaling, because that's the point in time you want to be in the aero position, like I said, and you want to not be draining to get back into town, get back into transition. Overall, like I said, it's a challenging course. I've done it I'm doing it in 2022, so this will be the 4th time for me. So obviously, I'm not totally like burnt out on it or anything. Like I said, it's great. There's farms, there's trees, it's a beautiful course, especially early in the morning when the sun's coming up. So when you're out there riding, you're going to feel really good, especially in the morning. If it's going to be warm, it'll be later in the day, so you won't necessarily cook. At the beginning of the race, it'll feel nice and cool coming out of the river. But like I said, the key thing is it is a little deceptive when you come through and doing those climbs, because it's just not all at once. It's not huge mountainous climbs or something like that. It's not 5,800. It's not 6,000 feet of elevation. It's 4,800, but it's spread throughout the course, and there's going to be sections where it's just kind of a long, gradual uphill. So you got to play a nice, patient game of going out there and getting up these hills and then making it to the backside. And then once you crest that last hill for the second loop, then you're a little bit home free, so to speak. It's going to be a little bit more downhill, a little bit nicer on the systems, on the energy level to cycle into town. And like I said, they've got the aid stations. I definitely look at the map to figure out where the aid stations are at. Like I said, every aid station, I either get a water bottle, a Gatorade Endurance bottle. My target is to have one of those drank in every aid station so I can refill and swap them out. Usually nutrition, I'm every 30, 45 minutes or something like that. I stop at special needs. I go to the bathroom. I get my replenish whatever I want out of my special needs bag, and then go. Maybe every other aid station I'll stop. They've got restrooms, porta potties, everything you kind of need at that. They've got first aid. They have bike racks usually. So even though it is 4 extra miles, it's not necessarily the most difficult 4 extra miles. You know, 4 extra miles at the end, riding him back into town. It's just the kind of the way the layout is that they have to have 4 miles, and it's always been like that for Ironman Chattanooga since they started the race in 2014. And it is going to be busy. Usually this race sells out, so this course will be packed with athletes, especially on your second loop. It's really not a problem for traffic. It's big enough that people are spread out for the most part, but be aware there are some little kind of country roads. There are just two little lane little roads with no shoulders or curves or anything like that, and it's open to traffic. So just be mindful out there. There's going to be traffic. There's going to be people driving around, so make sure you manage that as well. And like I said, if you got if there's a question of do I bring a triathlon bike or my road bike, triathlon bike and 5 times on Sunday. Make sure there's plenty of opportunity to get an efficiency out of having a triathlon bike out there. So make sure you bring your tri bike and you're ready for the course. With that, I think I've kind of gone over it a little bit, and hopefully, if anything, this will help you at least pull up your map off the website and kind of look it through and kind of be aware of what you're looking at and where you're going. And like I said, on the Ironman course, they've got the little playthrough. They got some voice description on there, so if you want to play that, you can. Didn't see any comments on the live, so I'm going to post this later on Facebook again, YouTube. So if it helped you out, give it a like on Facebook, give it a like on YouTube, hit subscribe, notifications on YouTube, see future videos, and talk about the run course and other course tips for Ironman Chattanooga, other courses in general, triathlon tips, and everything else. I know I went through kind of quick. I want to make sure that I got all the information I could get out to you guys as quickly as possible and not lose you guys. So with that, I want to end the video. And like I said, if you got any comments, put them in there. I'll get notifications. I'll get back to you. With that, happy training. We'll see you guys out on race day.